Chapter 3: Heart, Pressure and Silence. My hypertension story, from fear to control. My heart is not just an organ, it's the mirror of my life. For a long time I didn't understand this. I lived like most: hurry, worries, more coffee than water, irritability that I called just my personality, and blood pressure I ignored. Until it started ignoring me. The first diagnosis is always a shock. I remember that moment well. 145/100. And that was in the morning. I was younger then, and I thought everything was still ahead of me. But when the doctor said, "You have hypertension. We'll start with medication and see how it goes," I felt for the first time a fear that doesn't let go immediately. I sat in the office not thinking about pills. I was thinking that something in me had broken, and that there might be no way back. I started small and reached control. The first thing was monitoring my blood pressure. Every morning, without skipping. Not to scare myself, but to finally face reality. I recorded the readings, noted when it got worse, what I had eaten the day before, whether I'd slept enough, whether I had gotten angry at someone. Gradually, a pattern emerged, and it spoke volumes. My blood pressure was the language of my lifestyle. Then I changed my mornings. Not radically, not fanatically, but honestly. Garlic, oils, warm water, all this became part of my protocol, not just as healthy diet, but as a countermeasure to fear. Because the heart's greatest enemy is not food, it's tension. And my morning became a way to relieve that tension before it accumulated. Silence, my natural blood pressure monitor. One morning I realized that my morning silence isn't meditation. It is, literally, a blood pressure tool. Because blood pressure is the body's response to strain. When you are in silence, there's no anxiety, the heart is calm, breathing is slow, vessels relax. It's not magic, it's physiology. And it works better than any pill. Honest about medication. I'm not one of those who shout, ditch everything and just take herbs. No, in the beginning I took Concor 2.5 milligrams on my cardiologist's advice. And it helped me through the initial stage. But my real breakthrough started after I changed myself. Today, I still measure my blood pressure, every day. But medication is no longer the only thing I rely on. I rely on myself. On my discipline, my diet, my silence. Hypertension became my teacher. It forced me to live differently, more slowly, more wisely, more deeply. I no longer chase everything at once. I choose only what doesn't rob me of the main thing, my inner peace. And interestingly, the calmer I live, the better my heart works. Because high blood pressure is not a sentence, it's a wake-up call. And if we heed it in time, we begin to truly live. Medication plus ritual plus nutrition. How to achieve balance without fanaticism. When I first heard from the cardiologist that my blood vessels were like worn-out pipes, I got scared. But I wasn't scared of having to take medicine. I was scared of not knowing where the line was between help and dependency. I didn't want to become another patient who lives from pill to pill. I wanted to live consciously, qualitatively, strongly. That's why I started looking not for an alternative, but for a balance. Medication, not an enemy, but a support. The first thing to accept. Medication is not defeat, it's help. But only if it's part of a system, not the whole system. I was prescribed Concor 2.5 milligrams. It worked, and it still works. But from the very beginning, I knew. I don't want to spend my whole life just muffling a symptom. I want to change the cause. Ritual, the foundation of stability. My morning is not just a habit. It's a system reboot. I don't skip water in the morning because it kickstarts the body. I don't ignore garlic because it cleans my vessels better than fancy supplements. I take milk thistle and pumpkin seed oil because my liver has to work flawlessly. And most importantly, I do this without fanaticism, without fear of missing a day, without pressure on myself. Because a ritual is not punishment, it's an act of self-love. Nutrition, either silence for blood vessels or noise. Food either heals or aggravates. When I switched to simple food without sugar, without trans fats, without alcohol, my blood pressure reacted almost immediately. Not dramatically, but steadily. I noticed my head is clearer, my heart isn't jumping, and even the medication works more gently. I eat nuts, seeds, honey. I drink plenty of water. None of this is new. But what's new is how I perceive it. Not as a diet, but as fuel that doesn't poison. Balance, it's not arithmetic. I don't count calories. I don't set an alarm to remind me to take my oil. But I have structure. And this structure is alive. It adapts to my day, mood, state, because the main thing is not living by a timetable, it's living consciously. Not going to extremes, not replacing food with supplements, not refusing medication out of principle, not living in all or nothing mode. My principle is simple: medication, when needed, ritual every day. Food as an act of self-respect. Can you live with no high blood pressure at all? No. Because pressure is not just physiology, it's also life, which sometimes pushes, tests, demands. But you can live without fear, without the race, without fanaticism, and without self-destruction. I don't have perfect blood pressure every day, but I have something else: confidence that I haven't surrendered control. What's next? Next, I'll share what became an unexpected discovery for me. The ability to stop is a skill that prolongs life. We're not just talking about medication, nutrition, or rituals now. We're moving on to the power of the pause, to the art of silence. And that is the most underestimated component of longevity. What I think about aspirin, Concor, and self-prescribing. When I first heard you should take aspirin and Concor, I didn't argue. I just went and started taking them. Like millions of others. No questions, no analysis, no awareness. And that is the most dangerous symptom of our time. We've learned to reach for pills instead of answers. We play doctor, pharmacist, diagnostician on ourselves, and at the same time the patient. But that's not control. It's playing roulette with our health. Aspirin, neither saint nor devil. I take aspirin cardio daily, but not because the internet said so. Because a cardiologist prescribed it after doing tests. That's the crucial difference. Aspirin thins the blood. It truly can reduce the risk of clots, strokes, heart attacks. But it can also cause a stomach bleed if you don't know the state of your stomach. In my view, aspirin is not a universal preventive for everyone. It's a tool, and you must use it with instructions. Concor, precision over emotion. Concor, bisoprolol, lowers blood pressure, heart rate, and overall heart strain. In my case, it was the right choice. It didn't solve all problems, but it allowed me to reduce risk while I worked on the causes. Yet I know people who started taking Concor simply because it helped a friend of theirs. Without diagnostics, without monitoring. That's playing with fire, because every body is unique, and what lowers your blood pressure might cause bradycardia in me. Self-prescribing, the new irresponsibility. We live in a world where every second person is a YouTube expert. We fear doctors more than diseases. But the truth is simple. Prescribing yourself medication is as foolish as cutting out your own appendix. I'm not romanticizing medicine. It's full of formality, laziness, even mistakes. But that doesn't justify self-treatment. On the contrary, it's a reason to find your doctor, your system, your responsibility. My approach: cooperation, not submission. I listen to the doctor, but I also listen to myself. I read studies, analyze, track my body's reactions, and when something doesn't work, I don't stay silent. I don't endure. I change it. This isn't fanaticism, it's consciousness, because my goal is not just not to die. My goal is to live long and well, and if I need to take Concor for that, I take it. But I don't let it become the main hero of my health. Hard-learned lessons. A pill is not a magic wand. A doctor is not a god, but also not an enemy. I am not a victim, but I'm not a guru either. I am the commander of my biology. I should listen to everyone, but decide consciously. What's next? In the next section, we'll move on to the things you can't buy at a pharmacy. Because even the most advanced drug won't heal you if inside you there's constant noise. The silence we ignore is what heals at a deeper level. And it's exactly about that up next. How I listen to my heart, and recommend everyone do the same. We live in an era where the noise outside exceeds the silence within, but it's only in silence that you can hear the heart. not just physically, but emotionally. In the previous section, I talked about pills, rituals, balance, but even the best routine won't help if you don't know how to hear the main organ of your life. This is not a metaphor. I truly listen to my heart, and not just with a stethoscope, but with my body, my breathing, my rhythm, my feelings. The heart is not just a pump, it's a compass. Modern medicine presents the heart as a mechanism. Yes, it pumps blood, but to me the heart is a center of decision-making, a friend, even a judge. When I break the rhythm of my life, my heart is the first to say so. When I'm angry, eat in a rush, overwork or ignore myself, I can feel it beating out of tune. When I pray, breathe deeply, make the right decision, it calms down. The heart knows. And it speaks, if we're ready to listen. What does it mean to listen to your heart? Practically, I've developed a simple yet effective system I can recommend to anyone. 1. Silent check-in. Every morning, before the phone and news, I lie flat and just breathe for a few minutes. I listen. Is my heart calm? Is there slight pressure, racing, discomfort? This is my morning interview with my own body. 2. The pulse doesn't lie. I feel my pulse at the wrist, but not just the numbers. I listen to how it sounds. If it's rhythmic, everything's fine. Irregular, something's wrong. Faint means I've drowned it out with stress. 3. Emotional barometer. I ask myself, what are you feeling right now? And I listen not to my thoughts, but to my heart. Is it tense? Then I'm being dishonest with myself somewhere. Is it light? Then I'm on the right path. The heart does not tolerate lies. One reason people lose health is constant suppression of truth. We take offense but don't speak of the hurt. We work because we must, but hate every minute. We eat because it's tasty, but the body screams enough. The heart reacts to lies, and to truth as well. I learned to tell myself the truth in silence, and that practice saved me more than once. Stopping is not weakness. I used to think listening to myself was wimpy. Men shouldn't complain, shouldn't feel, shouldn't stop. Now I think differently. The strongest are those who stop before they fall. I stop when my heart asks me to, not to flee, but to catch my breath, to think, to change direction. This isn't weakness, it's the highest form of wisdom. Conclusion: listening to your heart is a skill that saves lives. I know many people who neglected this and paid a very high price. I too once didn't listen, but now I choose differently. I practice this skill every day, and I'd advise it to everyone. Stop, create silence, and ask, what is your heart saying? Because the answer is always there. We just don't always want to hear it.